Welcome back, everybody. This is Retro Challenge Gamer, and we are going to continue on in the island I would prefer to call, I think, Jungle Island. And there's something interesting over here just behind the, I guess you could say, the Transmobile. Yeah, you get this little weird eyeball thing you can rotate, which makes a very funny sound and has a symbol on the back. I highly suggest you memorize the sound and write down the symbol. You may not know exactly what that sound comes from, but it's important. So remember it for later, and if you want to have a hint at what exactly the sound is supposed to mimic, you can walk up the stairs a little bit and then turn around, and that looks odd. Look at that rock formation at the cave entrance and how that eye is placed specifically where it would most reasonably be on that type of shape. So just keep that in mind. Now, yeah, the path splits here. You can go up or you can go down. We're going to go down and... Ooh, what are those? Oh crap, we just scared them off. They're almost like little penguin otters or some such. But yeah, if you frighten them, they will run away, and you kind of need them to actually stay sunbathing on the rock. And you can walk down here to the little beach and explore a little bit. There's actually something interesting that you want to see down here. And I think I'm actually on the wrong side. I think I actually need to go to the other side. Yep, there it is. And there's another eyeball there. So that's two we've found already. And if you press this one, you get a different sound and a different symbol. And I suggest you write down the symbol, and it almost sounds like a whale. So let's listen to that again. Okay, so these eyes are deliberately placed so that they resemble the eyes of the actual shape they're trying to, I guess, get across to whoever this message is intended for. Obviously not you, since you're a stranger to these lands, but someone's trying to get a message across, and they're trying to do it very subtly. Now, when I first played this game, I was like, what the heck is that? What's going on? But that sound you're hearing is the alarm, and that's like a guard tower ahead of you. And they're basically warning the villagers to get inside because there's an intruder in their midst. You, specifically. So you're never gonna enter the village without getting spotted. You're always gonna be spotted, and they'll sound the alarm every time you come back into the village. And here's another eye. Doesn't look like much, but if you turn this little knob here, the sand pit starts filling up with water, and then the placement of that eye makes a little bit more sense. Someone has deliberately modeled the sand so that the water pouring in forms a specific shape. So now it's time to look at the eye and hear the sound it makes and the new symbol on the back. And just in case you missed it the first time. Okay, so we're starting to see a pattern here. That almost looks like a beetle. So these sounds that we're hearing are animal sounds. So if you think back to the first one we found and what the rock shape of the entryway was, it looks like the first sound was a frog. And that's just guessing at this point, but we'll see a frog later on and we'll know for sure that that's the sound it makes. There's not much we can do in this area at the moment. We're going to have to swing back around the other side of the island and come back into the village from the other entrance. Now as you get up here, you see this huge saw right there in the rock. And if you go a little further past the bridge, you'll notice that someone has clearly cut down a great part of the jungle here. So there's been a lot of logging happening, and we'll get into the reasons why that is. See a huge axe there? If you continue along this route, there's the Golden Dome. You'll see a little minecart. We're not ready to enter that just yet. But hunches are that's where they sent the lumber, and the minecart went wherever the lumber ultimately is supposed to end up. But if you look at this little pillar here, you'll see a golden beetle. And that just confirms the sound that we heard at the sand pit. Now, as you're exploring this area, there's not a lot to look at per se, but you will probably want to. I think it's at these blue mushrooms right here. You want to turn left. Yep, here we go. And you'll see one of them daggers again. And you come to another eye. This one isn't located, you know, in the middle of a specific shape which resembles an animal, so you're just going to have to figure out where the sound comes from and just associate it with that animal. Since we haven't heard this animal yet, we don't know what sound that's supposed to be mimicking. And then you come to this weird little shrine area. Okay, there's a lot of effigies of this creature with tusks and everything. They're practically everywhere in this world, so there's got to be something specific or special about the animal these effigies are trying to represent. But no matter, we're going to get out of the forest area, the jungle area, and proceed into the village proper. And there's another guard tower here. So no matter which entrance you would have came from, you would still have been spotted, so. Nice little view of the ocean. But if you look on the other side of the wall, you'll actually see like a cave drawing of Gen and people bowing down to him. But yeah, we're going to enter the village proper. And as you can see, up on the upper catwalks there, near the sky, you'll see several villagers running and going into their homes and shutting the doors. And you actually see the mother's coming around on the planks there and grabbing her child and taking her away. So they obviously don't like visitors. But this is a nice little caldera like lake village. It's kind of cool. I wouldn't mind living here, honestly. And then you get this little weird catwalk along the rock wall there. Some sort of telescope in the middle of the lake, and then looks like a weird pad for some sort of vehicle to inhabit. You get some nice little circular huts, and those are pretty much the houses these people live in. I swear, these houses are incredibly small. It's like they're only big enough to hold maybe one or two people max. I mean, good gosh, where else do they live? Now, if you knock on this person's door 5 times, one time for each point of the star, get it? You'll get an extra little scene here with the villager. But she so doesn't trust you, so she'll shut it as soon as she sees you're not a friend. But yeah, you can't really go anywhere else in this village. It's very limited where you can actually explore. But this looks interesting. What does this switch do? You flip it and... Oh gosh! What'd you do? You actually deposited that submarine-looking contraption to the lower level. So you're going to have to make your way back all the way to the other entrance of Jungle Island and access it that way. And look at this, more effigies of like the same whale-like creature. Wow, there's something special going on here with this particular animal. Something they worship? Who knows? And there's another thing of note here. Let's get a better picture of it. The fish. Ah, yeah, see the fish up there in the top? They're triangular in nature. That is very important to know. You may not realize it right off the bat, but solving a later puzzle where you're going to have to do some guesswork, that shape of the fish is very important. Yeah, so you're going to have to travel all the way back around. We're going to take the other route this time just to show people what it's all about. You're not missing much by not going through the jungle. You're just taking an alternative route. Ooh! Oh, and these little penguin otters are back. Okay, good. So if you just wait until they stop moving before you proceed forward again, you won't scare them off, okay? Okay, just wait for it. Wait for them to rest. Okay, now you click forward again. Up. Oh, wow. And that's what that sound was from the eyeball in the jungle. It's these penguin otters. I hope you wrote down both the sound and... Oh, we're going to scare these. Look at them run away. But I hope you associated the sound with the symbol on the back of that eye. That will come important much later in the game. We're going to bypass the sand pit altogether and head straight down the ladders to where we just dropped the submarine. And then you have three different, I guess you could say, mechanisms here. If you turn the middle one, it obviously turns the entire submarine around. And then you have this big honking lever here on the right, which is just begging for us to pull it, or push it in this case. That actually moves it forward. To me, this submarine segment, although very, very cool, is almost reminiscent of the second half of the Selenic Age in the first Myst game, with that stupid maze. On the bright side, navigating the underwater portion of this caldera lake is actually not that bad. There's only like two major, I guess you'd say, track change points, and then it's just one big circle around the whole lake, so you're not going to get too lost at all. But you'll want to come to this destination first, because several of the, I guess you could say, the ladders that extend out so you can climb into the submarine are not fully extended at some of the other locations. So you want to go to this little control booth or control tower here and flip up the rest of the switches. And those will extend out all the ladders so you can stop the submarine at pretty much any location in the lake. Man, you get that weird poled structure up there on the lake that's rising high up to the high bluffs there. I wonder what that's all about. Never fear, we're gonna go check that out as well. Now there's one more mechanism we haven't really checked yet, and that's the little slider bar lever here. And if you haven't already figured it out by now, that's the lever that helps the submarine change tracks, in which case we want to go to the left here. So we want to move it all the way to the left, and then press forward again. In this case, we should be moving left instead of back to the right, which is where we first started this whole underwater adventure. Now, there isn't really anything particularly of note in this location. However, if you're playing this for the first time, you have got to come here. For subsequent playthroughs, you should already know the one thing you need here, and that's the Dunny, or I should say the Riven numeric. I guess numbers 1 through 10. But the first thing that you'll notice here is the small little wind-up. It's like the centerpiece of the whole classroom. So let's give it a whirl.
Terekoi Danni, Kibayem Revat, Arroyem Betig Tavom, Gabodona Gayem.
What cracks me up right now is that he's looking like he's checking on all the students right now, just checking out the whole class. But it's clear that it's a pre-recorded message, but he's impressing on the students that he's ever watchful, that he's looking at them even now. They just don't get the concept of pre-recorded messages, and so he did that little, checking on the students at the end of the message there to kind of say, oh gosh, he's watching us. He's always watching. And those fruits actually look kind of tasty. I want to try one. See the alphabet all along the top wall, but that's not the most important thing in here. The most important thing for first-time players is this little toy. Now, it teaches you numbers, and the amount of times each person or each little body descends downward is the number that symbol at the bottom is supposed to, I guess you could say, symbolize. Yeah. I don't know what I'm saying. So let's count here. Okay, so that symbol at the bottom means 10. And so now we go to the next side. That symbol at the bottom means 7. Now, I'm only going to do this all the way until the game ends, but I would highly, highly recommend that you keep playing this until you have the symbols for the numbers 1 through 10. It is extremely important that you do this. And that will come into play for another puzzle later on, but make sure you have the symbols down for 1 through 10. Alright, now another thing you also have to consider is how freaky that game is for little kids to be playing. Why would they have something like that? Some sort of death trap game which teaches them numbers. With something that eats the people if one loses. I don't know. There's something going on there, and I think it has something to do with all the whale effigies and, just permeating throughout this island. So now, instead of something that they're worshipping, maybe it's something that they're in fear of. Maybe something that the fear has been put into them because of it. These are things you need to be thinking about with regards to how this particular creature is being used in this culture. It's kind of important. Now this is an interesting area. I mean, right off the bat, it doesn't seem like there's anything noteworthy here, and in fact, you can't really do anything. But this looks extremely odd, but it's so very prominent. It's like the most obvious thing in this entire lake. There's got to be something special about it. But since we can't do anything with it currently at the moment, we're just going to ignore it. But continue on our way. But it was just something I want to point out for later story purposes. You know, just keep that at the back of your mind. Okay, and we're pretty much done with the submarine segment for now. We'll get back to it in another video later on, because we're not quite done with the lake. But we've done pretty much all we could in Jungle Island. Didn't really solve much of anything. Didn't really press any permanent switches that will affect things later. We just found about 4 eyeballs and some sounds and symbols associated with them. We learned what the numbers 1 through 10 were in their calligraphy or whatever. So that's all we can really do now at Jungle Island. We'll just have to come back later from a different direction, maybe. Oh, what the heck. Let's go through. Let's go through the jungle. Ooh, look at that. There's a spinning dome. Right up top there. Now, that's pretty unique. That would be something I would definitely want to keep an eye on. So, yeah. If you find any spinning domes, just memorize their locations and where they are. I have a hunch that it's going to come in handy at one point. You never know. So now, clearly this is obviously not a form of transportation that villagers are supposed to use, and that becomes readily apparent as you descend down in freakishly... Oh dear gosh! Ah! This is a wild ride. And yes, we are completely under the water. We are traveling through the ocean completely dry and not a drop on us. How is this possible? Something tells me these little yellow energy beams of light circling the tracks are to blame. And now we're going to a brand new island. This island is more or less off limits to most of the villagers or natives of this world. And that will become very apparent in the next video. This is almost like a base of operations almost for Gen. And we'll pretty much go snooping through his things and finding clues to some of the most diabolical puzzles in the game. And you can't tell right off the bat, but yeah, it pretty much deposits you right on top of a wood chipper. That would have really sucked if that was on at this time. But we're going to explore this island in the next video, so until then, see you later.